take in place wasn't really just 5 years. They originally planned like to take about 50 years, 20 years for that. And they also came up with a slogan, which is suppress Britain and catch up with the United States. And why this movement came out is really a response to the Soviet Union that they said they will overtake the US in 15 years. So China also came out with a similar one, but they want to first catch up with Britain and then the US. And also notice that it was 1950, so at that time period, there's a really huge gap between the production level of the US and China. So how would China reach to the US? So the one way is to increase the factory worker and the amount of factory. And they can't really like build a real factory. So instead of increase the factory, they only call people to produce steel. And that's where things begin to mess up. So when people begin to produce steel, they can't do anything else. If, for example, like if you are a farmer, then you can have to give up all your farm work and begin to produce steel. And it also happened in school and in some scientist lab. So everyone in China at the time period was just focused on steel production. And the problem is that they are not professional at this era, so they only know a little bit about how to produce steel, but they don't know how exactly the correct way of doing that. And they also, the way they produce steel is melt anything that made of steel, like furniture, like the kitchen knife, something like that. So they melt it and turn into steel. And the problem is that is a lot of those weren't qualified, so they are unqualified steel, and during that time period, China wasted a lot of money and effort on those unqualified steel. So now we move into the third five-year plan, which is also known as the Cultural Revolution. And it takes place in 1966 to 1976. And it's also a political movement, and it's mostly targeting the intellectuals, and they see them as an enemy to the socialist and also communist party. And here's the problem: when people targeting the education system was being banned, and so no one was really allowed going to school, especially high school and college. And that created a huge amount of people that were uneducated. Even though after this time period, people are allowed to go to school, but there are still a lot of people that weren't educated, and they want people to transfer into factory workers. So this is also maybe one of the reasons why now today China has a large amount of factory workers. And after that time period, which is after Mao Zedong died, the reform, also known as the Chinese economy reform, came out by the next leader named Deng Xiaoping. And it was started in 1978, 2 years after Mao Zedong died, and until present day. So what they do is the main goal of that is to open up the country to foreign investment, so allow companies from other countries to come in China and having business with Chinese factory. And it also gave permission for entrepreneurs to start business inside China. And from this point on, China began to become a worldwide industry. And so now we will talk about the present day.
So after Deng Xiaoping opened the nation to foreign enterprises, China actually has a lot of good things going for it in terms of attracting foreign businesses. First of all, it's cheap labor. China has a huge population, and with the huge population, you have a huge workforce, basically. And to be fair, they were paid very poorly because unlike in America, workers there are so many workers in China that if you are unsatisfied with the condition that you have, you can always be replaced. So back in the 1980s, the annual income of a Chinese worker is between $400 and $500, which is ridiculously low. And if you compare it to American minimum wage in 1980, which is $3.1 per hour, and if you like work 8 hours a day and then you work 20 days a month, if you do the math, after 12 months, you'll have around $5,000 to $6,000, which is 10 times more than a typical Chinese worker. And this huge gap really attracted foreign businesses to come invest, to take advantage of this cheap labor. Next. So land. China has a really good business location, actually, because of its proximity to the Asian Four Tigers. Singapore, South Korea, Hong Kong, Taiwan, all of them are huge trade centers, and they brought the transition for foreign businesses to come to China really easy. Also, land reform. Land reforms allows farmers to own their land, which increased food production, because back when all the land belongs to the government, people don't usually produce that much food. And finally, there are special economic zones established that have friendly rules for foreign businesses to come, which this also attracted many foreign companies. So raw materials. China has a lot of raw materials, from iron, wood, to all coal, sulfur, and all of those. And the abundance of these resources is one thing. Many countries actually have abundant natural resources, but the thing about China is that China can exploit all of them. The reason for that is it lacks environmental laws. When you don't have that much regulations in terms of environment protection, you can excavate more. You can excavate for coal more. You can use more coals. You can burn more fossil fuels, burn more coal as well. So this causes air pollution, water pollution, deforestation, and the loss of light pollution even. I happen to know this from personal experience back when I was in China, Beijing. And these are some negative impacts, but all of these factors propelled China's economy as well as industrialization to become the world's factory, the main supplier of all the manufacturing goods. Next slide. So for nowadays, we have a lot of reasons. Can we just click again? Well, we have the reason why China is the factory of the world is a question with many answers. These are some of the most basic. First of all, in China, they have a large labor pool, and with a large labor pool, you can always replace people that are not satisfied. So you can give them poor conditions, basically. So workers have no insurances, unlike America. Bad working conditions, of course. Little to non-environmental regulations for businesses. You can see it from water pollution, air pollution, and other things as well. Low wages, like we see back in the slides, 10 times less to 50 times less than a regular U.S. worker. Also, the low manufacturing cost. This can be contributed to bad sources of material or just really simple manufacturing methods. In terms of world industries, the VAT taxation system means the value added tax. So basically, if you're trying to make it like a toy, you need to make the leg, use walls, there's a lot of process. which usually takes the products. It takes 70% of its sale price to make. But if you're like making a frisbee, and the only thing you need to do is get a piece of plastic, put it in the mold, and just like use the machine, and then that's one process, and it requires little tax, really little tax, and usually takes around 20% of its sale price, which is ridiculous. Trade cheats, unbalanced tariff. This is also a reason for the recent trade war between US and China. For example, China can impose a 25% tax on American import frisbees, but if China is trying to export frisbee to America, America only has like maybe 15% or 10%. China also utilized massive market influence to force corporations in research and development. For example, like if you're like Apple, you're developing a new cell phone device, but if you want to like enter the market, China's huge market, which everybody does want to like take a piece, you have to work with China in terms of developing the product, which allows China to kind of steal the technology inside them. Dumping strategy is one of the most commonly used strategies in terms of Chinese production. So dumping is basically like if you're making hinges, which cost 10 cents a piece, and you export it to maybe Australia and selling them for 5 cents a piece. And Australian manufacturing needs maybe like 15 cents a piece to create one hinge like with same quality as yours. So through this method, you can basically create monopoly and kill their native industries. And because all of the factories and businesses are nationally owned, so China can always win in terms of this race when it comes to outliving the other company. So these are the methods, and that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
That was it. That was a great presentation. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of background there. And it sort of tells you why China is here where it is. So I was wondering that, like you said, I want to talk about the environmental regulations part. So you said
Yeah.
can you give me some examples of what you experienced?
Oh yeah. So I used to live in Beijing, and the air pollution is just terrible. And we use a scale in terms of like measuring how bad the air quality is. Usually it's between 200 and 500, sometimes even reaching 700. And here in America, it's the worst day in Los Angeles would be around 100. So the blurry skies, that's basically it. And all the particles in the air because of manufacturing waste and other things. Water pollution, like company dumping like toxic like materials into the water. I've seen them numerous times, like a pipe leading straight towards the ocean, and there's like yellow liquids coming out of it, which is very unfortunate. And
Yeah.
it reduces cost though, because you don't need to deal with them. And
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's true. Um, Another question I had was maybe it's more like a comment, but like, what do you? It seems that there's a huge competition. Like, so from our previous discussions, we know that China is very competitive with the Western people, with the Western countries, and I don't know, maybe this is a little of a side note, but do you think this competition has been put into the culture, or no? Is it just a governmental thing?
yeah, I mean, throughout the years, especially in the early years of the new China, people are pretty. The animosity between China and the West are pretty high, I would say, especially after the Korean War. where like direct conflicts are made. And but I think it's getting better, to be fair. We still, yeah, there's still tensions, of course, but it's much better than the past.
Yeah, like when you, I don't know, like let's say you see an American, or you see multiple people. What's your impression when they like see you? You say where you are from. Is it? Do you think there is still that? I don't know how to say it. That stereotype, that competition between the people, or no, that's fading away. You know what I'm trying to say?
Um, I think it's kind of fading away right now because you see the Chinese population is the growth of Chinese population is decreasing, and China is becoming more is becoming a richer nation, and with the development that they're doing, they can really afford to like give higher wages and better working conditions, better working hours, and more like workers' insurance. And with these things coming, the price will rise. And also with the pandemic, the over reliance of Chinese products are really shown during the pandemic. Like we can't even make like face masks by ourselves, and many companies are shifting to like nations like India, maybe Vietnam, South Korea, etc. So yeah, I think the competition isn't like it's like decreasing right now. So yeah.
Oh
Go ahead.
no, no, I don't have anything. Yeah.
I had a question about back to the environment because based on like the presentation, the whole point was because of not taking more environmental measures was because it would affect the economy, right? I think there's like a movement for solar power, and like China's able to profit a lot from that. Like, do you think there's gonna be like any chance in the future where you can combine getting profit while also regulating the environmental measures and stuff?
Yeah, I can definitely see that coming. Like China has a lot of places where you can utilize like water resources, like building dams and like wind power, of course, solar power in the deserts. Yes, but for now, the majority of the energy for China still comes from coal. So that might be a pretty distant thing in the future. But I think China is definitely making the shift towards that direction, towards more cleaner energy sources.
I mean, I think you also had another comment, Jeffrey. Do you want to say that?
Me?
No, sorry. What was your name? I messed up.
My name is Jeffrey.
No. Your friend. I don't want to say a villager.
My friend is Alan. Yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah. So
Alan.
Yeah, Alan, you want to talk about this?
Yeah. So the problem with environment is really like how much effect we want to put in, and if we see in the U.S. we really have some really good weather, like air quality, and like if you like in the high school history class, you know that in the 1900s, where industrialization happened in U.S., there's also like this serious problem with the environment problem, but the U.S. can solve it, like such as like building national park or set quality or like set some rules about like what you can do or what you cannot do. And there's also something like still happening in China where they also came out like some policy for that, and they're still improving. Like if you live in China like 10 or 20 years before, like the air quality is way worse than what it is today. So yeah, like if you will see that there's an improvement on that part.
It's interesting because I think that the Western countries, right, were the first to industrialize, and then the Asian countries were sort of behind. But then they suddenly caught up, and then now they're doing like too much of it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, it's really like because of the World War II that almost completely destroyed the industry system in the entire Asia. And before the end of World War II in China, like the power Japan control called Manchu actually is the fourth largest industry country in the entire world, and is also the fourth place in Asia. So after the war, is like those industry system was being completely destroyed, and everything was really just start over again.
yeah, that's true. So do you think as long as there is this competition to win, I don't know, to be the first, do you think that will cause a huge toll on the people of China
Um,
and more emigration maybe can occur? People can come to Western countries. What do you think?
I think nowadays it's not about production anymore. China's dominance in terms of production is, I think, it's pretty set right now. But in terms of technology advancements, that's where I believe the new battlefield will be at, like 5G, 4G, and radar technology, maybe satellites, space. I think that's where the future, like maybe competitions, will be focusing on.
Right, but do you think like this competition can lead to, like, it seems that the people of China are being crushed with not crushed, that's a big word, but are not benefiting from the environment or from the laws enacted or from um, many of the anti-Western propaganda. So I'm just trying to see if, as long as this competition exists between these two countries, do you think the people of China would be are okay with that, or would be able to move on, or no, they would just leave the country? You know what I'm trying to say? It's like a hypothetical.
First of all, not every Chinese people can leave the country. That's like
Yeah.
a really small portion of people can actually see the world other than their, yeah. And secondly, Chinese people are really like hardworking people, and they do what they're told, basically. And yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Okay, yeah, I'm just trying to. Okay, you have a comment, Alan?
Yeah. So actually, the competing lag is not really just in the like factory or economy side, but also like almost everything. Like for example, like the daily life or the military, and also the culture. And it's really like start from the very beginning, like 1950s, and it really doesn't stop at all until today. So it might be keep going, or like one day it just stopped because something happened.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Very interesting presentation. Also, you guys mind sharing the presentation with us at the end? You can just email it, the link.
Yeah,
Um,
of course.
yeah, thank you so much for. That's all of my questions. Valana, do you have anything else to add on?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. We're starting to work with the administration to help put your content up. Um, so hopefully that goes all well, so everybody in our school can be able to see what you guys have to say. So thank you so much for sticking, and hope to see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.